Hey everybody, it's Kate420 and I'm back. This is going to be a controversial video. So, here we go. Oh, air conditioning's on. 1 second. There we go. Alright. Sorry guys, Kate420 here. As you can read on the screen, I had to put this in like layman's terms. Because if I had just put up, here's why I'm against the Equality Act, I probably wouldn't have got even of you, let alone those of you that are still here listening. So just know that I put myself out there by saying, here's why I, Kate420, a lesbian, a lesbian of more than a decade. Probably most of my life, to be honest. Yes, I have children, but, I'm in that generation that fought for acceptance, fought for our relationships to be looked at in the same way as heterosexual relationships. However, I've never been one that's been part of the hashtag LGBTQ community. Like it or not, I don't agree with a lot of what they stand for and some of the people that they've chosen to accept into that community in recent years. And yes, I'm talking about the P's, guys, as our good old friend, what did I just do the darn video on? Dave Chappelle. He left out the P's when he was doing the alphabet people, but I don't, because they put it in there today when they sued the government recently, and when they have been pushing new propaganda. It is LGBTQAIP. They want to say it's pan. But very before the pan came out, the pedophiles jumped in and threw that on there. So if you're still here and you're willing to say, what could this lesbian possibly see wrong with the Equality Act? Because everything's so equal. We want everybody to be equal. Men get paid the same as women, even though there's jobs that take much more skill and that women, I'm sorry, as a woman, I know our limitations. And yes, we can give birth, but we don't have the muscular or the ligament and muscle tissue, deep muscle tissue. There's some bone structure. There's so much biological science behind it that if you believe in the wage gap, that's a whole nother video. So let's get going, because this all got pushed mainstream about 3 days ago. When were the VMAs, guys? The VMAs a couple days ago. Good old John Travolta. Ain't seen him in a bit, huh? Not since the last time he got outed as, Anywho, he accidentally almost gave Miss Taylor Swift's, VMA to the drag queen that was standing next to her. But that's not the video we're doing today. So yeah, right here. Here she is. See this girl behind her? This girl behind her plays her in the video. And when John Travolta came on stage, he walked up and shook her hand and attempted to hand her the video. But at the end of this, I'm gonna let's play this real quick. Maybe. Of course. Come on, I got the buffer master on. Okay, I'll get to the point. What she said is, in the video, several points were made. So, basically, she said, so you voting for this video means that you want a world where we are all. Here we go. Maybe.
I just want to say that this is a fan-voted award.
All right, I'm not doing this again. Okay, so anyway, basically, she said, in this video, several points were made. So you voting for this video means that you want a world where we are all treated equally under law. And then it says, Swift went on to slam the White House for its failure to support the bill. But let me explain. She didn't just say, she tapped a fake watch that wasn't on her arm, that whole it's time. Well, she says, it said that if you, a petition that you...
So
Hold on. There's a post. There. Okay, so it said that a petition that's sent to the White House, or excuse me, petition, when you petition the White House, if there's over 100,000 signatures on that petition, the White House must respond. Yes, Miss Taylor Swift, I know that you are very new into politics, so I'm going to break this down for Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift, next time that you want to make a petition that you would like the White House to look at, you can't put it on change.org because you got 500,000 signatures and you were tapping your watch waiting for your reply from the White House, but you ain't gonna get it because you didn't do your petition on www.whitehouse.gov. That's where you get the 100,000 signatures equals a response from the White House. Next, Swift went on, she, of course, slammed the White House for the failure to support the bill, but it lacks any understanding of the policy. We're going to get into that. This is exactly, I want you to read the quote. This is what she's telling you. Any of you listening to me right now, she thinks you have no capability of looking up the Equality Act, understanding its terminology yourself, and making a decision on your own whether it is something you agree or disagree with. She says, Swift says, the Equality Act, quote, basically just says we should all be equal under the law. Really? Well, Taylor Swift, I'm going to prove you wrong in this video, and I am going to prove you wrong as a lesbian who is against the Equality Act. Let's go. I wish I had music. That's me. That's my music, guys. I know, I've been slacking. I'm just trying to get back into the swing of things while still, keeping up with politics and every day I have at least 2 videos that I'm working on, but then the news breaks and it's, do I work on my 2 videos or do I do a breaking news video? Or are my people looking for me to talk about this? So sometimes I stop doing what I'm doing and work on something else. Like this was something that was, wait, that doesn't sound right type of thing. Like when I heard that she said, it basically means we are all equal, I about crap myself. I was like, wait a minute. I even know that is not what it means. I've read the Equality Act because I wanted to know as a gay woman, do I want to vote for this? Do I want to tell my family to vote for this? Do I want to tell my wife to vote for this? Do I want to tell my neighbors that this is a good thing? I want to be able to explain this, and I also want to be able to debate it with liberals who think that they know everything. Because they don't. They think what do they say? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Well, that quote must have been a forced, what do you call it? Yeah, foresight of what liberals were going to end up doing to this country. Anyway, the Equality Act, I believe it's HR 5 right there. See the top? HR 5. That's when you vote on the bill and the Senate votes on it. And when we the people vote, it'll be House Resolution number 5. It's an act right now. It's not a bill. Okay, an act meaning that there's already a bill in place. So what's the bill that's already in place? Well, the Equality Act would technically be an amendment to many amendments to the 14th Amendment. Do you know what the 14th Amendment is? Yeah, I do. A matter of fact, when I was putting this research together last night, before I even had to look it up or anything, I knew in my head that Equality Act had to do with the 14th Amendment, and that's how I started this. That's where I started. I read for I wanted to know the entirety of the 14th Amendment before I read the section that this most applies to. And I suggest that to anybody. Don't take what I say. Don't take what, Sticks, Hex and Hammer or BCP or anybody. You should be doing your own research on your own time, because at the end of the day, the way that you take that research in and absorb it and apply it and work through it is how you're going to make decisions on your voting and your political, where you stand politically in life. So don't just I beg you, please don't just write off your favorite YouTuber, because as much as we appreciate that support, we also appreciate those of you that are willing to challenge us, willing to have a debate that's honest and open and intelligent, and and I love that. I love admitting when I'm wrong. I'm not a person who cannot, I'm not one of them people. I don't like those people. If you can't admit it, you're wrong, then I don't really have a whole lot of time for you, because there's going to come a point in time in our life where you are wrong, and I'm not going to take accountability for your wrong. So who is? 14th Amendment. It was adopted on July 9th, 1868. The amendment addresses citizenship, rights, equal protection laws, and basically it was a response to issues related to former slaves. That's technically why the 14th Amendment was worked on to begin with. They wanted to be able to put former slaves' rights in with this equal protection clause. It says the citizenship clause provides a broad definition of citizenship, nullifying the Supreme Court's decision in Dred Scott versus Sanford, 1857, which had held Americans descended from African slaves could not be citizens of the U.S. That changed that. That meant Americans that descended from slaves were now citizens, and their privileges and rights and all that were to be interpreted thereof. Let's get to the next part, the part that the Equality Act has to do with. Okay? The Equality Act is basically adding changes to the Equal Protection Clause in the 14th Amendment, which I believe is Section 5. I want to say it's Section 5, guys. It basically goes through, and we're going to go back to it in a minute, and step by step changes the 14th Amendment to a point that we don't ever want to get to, guys. And when I say that we don't ever, wait, we're going to go over it right now. Here we go. Okay. A lot of these things are just words, and that's what they expect you to think. Oh, these words, and you don't understand what the words put together mean for you. You, the average everyday person, maybe not gay, maybe not bi, maybe not straight. Who knows? It doesn't really matter, does it? It's going to change your life forever. How? How is it going to change our lives, Kate? That's what you're asking me. Okay, so let's start. Well, first and foremost, findings and a purpose. Congress finds the following: discrimination can occur on the basis of sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, pregnancy, childbirth, or a related medical condition of an individual. We all know that's disabilities. That's already, Disabilities Act is covered under pregnancy, childbirth, all that. And then each of these factors alone can serve as a basis for discrimination, and each is a form of sex discrimination. Now, wait a minute. We have been told during this entire trans movement that gender is, the social concept, and it's fluidity, but it has nothing to do with the biological sex of a child or a human being. Why is that then put initially right in wrapped all up in a nice little bow under sex discrimination? If gender and sex have nothing to do with each other, tell me why in your own act, the very first amendment or in description of this, you lump in gender identity, which, by the way, let's look it up quickly. Gender identity gender identity. Let's see. Liberals. How many I want you to see yourself. Sorry. God, I'm terrible at typing with this mic in the way. I need to get a mic stand and move this thing out of my way. Okay. So anatomy doesn't. Yeah, see, anatomy, sex. Sex does not. That's the very first article that comes up. Sex does not determine gender, experts say. Of course, they aren't biological, science experts. However, so far there's 71 genders. Let's keep going. I believe I got to one that said there's an infinite number. There's never a gender. Like there's never a number of genders, an infinity number of genders. Okay. And it also believes that you can be fluid. You can change those genders at any time. And yet the population around you who you haven't informed of that change, who don't maybe see a change, who maybe don't know you enough to know that you have changed, who they would think that's who you are to begin with. They don't know to call you another pronoun. But now you want to make things much more illegal, and you want punishments and you want punishments, and you want changes to the actual English language, so that and somehow or another you forgot in all this that you haven't invented the transdar. I mean, I call it the gaydar. When I was back in my day, I said I had some good old gaydar. I could spot another one of me a mile away, But guess what? We can't do that with everyone. I'm sorry. It's not happening. Okay. There's no way that I can look at you and tell 100% if you were a man yesterday and a woman today, and then tomorrow you're a cis, and then the day after that you're no, I'm not. And this is very close to me. I'm going to say that in a way that that no one else would be able to figure it. But I'm not talking about this just because I'm a lesbian and I have a right to. No, I'm talking about this because the trans community affects my life personally, and I find myself very confused, even as someone who should be quote unquote woke about this. So first and foremost, in the very first part, you have said gender identity is it can be a form of sex discrimination now. All right. And each of these factors alone can serve as that base. So meaning gender identity alone. Meaning if I want to be peanut butter tomorrow and you do not recognize me as peanut butter, well, in Canada, you can get a ticket. And who knows who could sue you for discrimination for not recognizing you as peanut butter. No joke. Look it up. Google peanut butter as an identity right now while you're sitting here. I know you think I'm crazy. Google it. Tell me what it says in the comments below. So, next. A single instance of discrimination may have more than one basis. For example, discrimination against a married same-sex couple could be based on the sex stereotype that the marriage should only be between heterosexual couples, the sexual orientation of the two individual couples, or both. Meaning, you could get somebody who believes that marriage should only be between a man and a woman, and you could get somebody that believes gay people are disgusting. So now you've been discriminated against twice. Now get this, discrimination against a pregnant lesbian could be based on her sex, her sexual orientation, her pregnancy, or on the basis of multiple factors. Oh my God, what are we doing? What are we doing? When you've got to write in discrimination against a pregnant lesbian could be based on her sex, her sexual orientation, her pregnancy, or multiple factors together. Well, duh. But you know what? It doesn't need to be in. The percentages of these cases happening, I want you guys to know, are all like 0.07, 0.10. Like I couldn't even get a chart that showed me in any type of increase in these discrimination cases. Not even during the trans movement, no. Not even during the gay and lesbian marriage movement, no. I feel like every few years, I don't know, right around election time, these topics come up and these type of bills come up and these type of acts come up, and people end up passing laws just so they could, I don't know, get their party elected based on virtue signaling. Anyway, keep going. I want to get down to the good stuff. All right. A discredited practice known as conversion therapy is also a form of discrimination that harms LGBTQ people by undermining individuals' sense of self-worth, increasing suicidal ideation, substance abuse history, exacerbating family conflict, and contributing to the second-class status. Well, geez. But you could say the same thing about gender identity therapy. When a child is confused about their gender and you take them to a gender therapist who thinks they might need hormones. A lot of times, a very, what is it, 40% right now of trans, hang on, let's look this up. I don't want to just guess. Percentage of trans adolescents. Oops. Adolescent suicide. Here's HRC is pretty good. Hold on. Trans teens much more likely to commit. Right here, 30%. I think it just said a trans teen is 30% more likely to commit suicide. I believe that was the one I just read off the outer. But I like my facts, so let's double check. Among non-binary, 41.8% say they had attempted suicide, while 22.9% of transgender female teens said they had attempted suicide. So more than half of transgender males who participated in the survey reported attempting suicide. 29.9% of the transgender females said they attempted suicide. Now, among non-binary youth, 41% said they had done it at some point in their life. So 50 trans males out try to kill themselves than both non-binary females and males together. Non-binary females and females together only try to kill themselves 41.8% of the time. But over 50% of males and almost 30% of transgender males, 50%, transgender females, 30%, have attempted suicide. So are you telling me that that's any different than conversion therapy, losing sense of self-worth, increasing suicidal ideation? I am a lesbian woman fighting this right now. You realize that. Remember that while you hear me talking. I am not saying conversion therapy is okay. I'm just saying the same can be said for this gender identity, gender disorder, and lumping it in and forcing people to adhere to your crazy new things that you haven't even worked out yet is dangerous. And I'm going to show you how dangerous it is right now. I need a drink. This is sad, guys. This one is sad. Because at the end of the day, the children in this case are the ones who are the victims. Texas Dad's update. Now, you can look at me and say, Kate, this is the Blaze. It's a right lean. Guess what? I have NewsGuard. And NewsGuard now says that the Blaze has more credibility than some of, let's say, the establishment papers of record. It is now a green check on NewsGuard, and I am going to use it as a reliable source. Whether you are a liberal or I'm a liberal or I'm a centrist, I use liberal sources and right sources for that very reason. As a matter of fact, we'll be getting to a CBS story, so chillax. People always leave me messages about the Blaze. Stop, please. The Blaze is a NewsGuard approved. Now, this Texas Dad, I think his name's Jeffrey Younger. Hold on. I listened to this on a podcast. Yep, Jeffrey Younger. All right. So Jeffrey Younger is in the middle of a heated divorce. And if any of you know, parental alienation can get pretty rough in this day and age. Hang on, I got to click the read more thing. So it stops loading. There we go. All right. So anyway. Come on, get back up there. The most fundamental form of sexual abuse, tampering with the sexual identity of a vulnerable boy. This boy is 6. He has 2 sons. Jeffrey Younger has 2 sons. And oh God, Jesus. There we go. Please He's a Texas father of 2 boys. He's received some crucial attention in the last few months due to the nightmare custody battle with his ex-wife, who claims one of their son, James, is a transgender girl. In a podcast episode earlier this week, I'm going to get so irritated if this thing doesn't stop loading. Sorry. This week, that updated listeners on his situation, Younger explained his gut-wrenching quandary. The only way you can survive this and get your son through this alive is to calmly allow your son to be tortured right before your eyes and outlast the opposition. Wow. That's like, wow. Okay, so the background. What's the background? Younger says said issues with the way his wife was treating James commenced over 3 years ago when he complained she would lock him in his room and say things like, "The monsters only eat boys." Are you kidding me? Is this lady okay? Anyway, sorry about that. I'm always knocking the microphone over. You know it. Okay, next. Since their divorce, Younger has said his ex-wife socially transitioned James, gave him a new name, Luna, which his teachers use. James, now 6, also dresses as a girl and uses the girls' restroom, and soon may be headed to hormone transitioning. Jesus, he's 6. You don't have to. I'm gonna have to do a video this week. I am on. I have about 20 different separate articles I've put together of children who transitioned and regretted it and had to go transition back, and now they're talking from the other end. All right, this is Younger said James told him he isn't a girl. He violently, or excuse me, thing is, Younger said James told him he isn't a girl and violently refuses to dress as a girl at my house. But regardless, Younger said his ex-wife not only is on a path toward forcing dad to accept James's transition to a female and pay for the things like transgender affirming therapists and hormone treatments and other procedures, but also to remove custody rights such as overnight visitation, and all with the blessing of the courts. What does the Equality Act have to do with this, you say? We'll get to that in just a second. Listen to this case. She filed the motion last year to modify custody and claimed I was refusing to recognize and affirm his female identity. What did I just read you? This man, and by the courts and the child protective standards, is discriminating against his own son. That's what the courts are viewing this case as a case of a son who wants to be a girl and a father who is not allowing it, denying him his medical and spiritual and mental health and physical needs in order to be the fullest person he will be in life. That's what they are saying. Okay? Um I can never present James as a boy to the outside world. He's only says that Younger added he now has to pass transgender education. Court ordered transgender education and may only use female pronouns for his son. I just want a couple more things from this article, and then we'll get back to, I'll point this out and a couple other instances where this is very dangerous in the Equality Act, you guys. I got some stuff from a pediatrician, so stick around, please. Don't leave yet. I want you to imagine having electronic communication with your son on FaceTime, and imagine that your ex-wife has dressed him as a drag queen to talk to you. He has false eyelashes and makeup. His hair has got glitter in it. He's wearing a dress. Now imagine how you would feel seeing what I believe is actual sexual abuse. I believe that this is not just a form of emotional abuse, but is the very most fundamental form of sexual abuse, tampering with the sexual identity of a vulnerable boy every single day. You have to see your son sexually abused, and you have to maintain your calm because the courts are not going to be fair to you. And the only way you can survive this and get your son through this alive is to calmly allow your son to be tortured before your eyes and outlast the opposition. That's what it's like. Wow. I'm sorry, but that reading that quote, that little paragraph, I listened to the podcast, but after I reread this article, or read this article after watching the podcast, I had to do a video on this. I didn't care if I had to take a whole shit ton of slack from the LGBTQ community. I didn't care if I lost subscribers. I didn't care because you know what? As a matter of fact, I do care about some things. There's some people in my life personally that may be hurt by this if they see this video, and I'm going to have some explaining to do. But maybe it's time we have that talk. Maybe it's time because in my own life, I personally can say that it's easier for me to talk to an audience about the way my feelings and my beliefs about this than it has been to talk to my own personal friends and family about it. Sorry, I needed a drink. Okay, so next. This is the pediatrician one, guys. I really wanted you to hear this because this is the most important part of all this. Yes, there's 100 different things that the Equality Act would do. It would end girls' sports. Exactly right here, force Catholic hospitals out of business. But essentially, the pediatricians warn the Equality Act would strip parental rights. And that's what I was just reading you. That Texas father has lost his right to call his son James his son or James. This man gave 23 of his chromosomes to this boy. That is his blood, his biological matter that was only created because that man was there and involved. And then financially was there and is still trying. This man is still trying to raise his son into a productive member of society and be the father he was supposed to be. Only this Equality Act crap that we're promoting and that we're trying to push to be legalized is stripping parents of their rights to say, you know what, I think this might just be a phase. Let's ride this out. Let's get you some counseling and we'll see if this is what you really need. We're going to make a decision once you have turned what I believe to be an adult age. You know, those things. Compromise. 6 is not that's a mother who wants a child she has 2 boys and she picked up her more effeminate son and said, "You're going to be a girl." Monsters eat boys. Remember that? Yeah. So that is a mother who wanted to have attention and wanted to be part of the new transgender push, and she picked one of her sons, probably the one that was easier to talk into it, and did it. Anyhow, the Daily Signal sat down with Dr. Michelle Cretella, pediatrician and executive director of American College of Pediatricians, to discuss the Equality Act and the impact it would have on parental rights, doctors' oaths to do no harm to patients, as well as the effect it would have on faith-based organizations who oppose transgender ideology, and even its impact on girls' sports. Dr. Cretella warned the Equality Act, despite its name, would unfairly strip parents and moral conscientious healthcare employers of their freedoms, as well as cause more harm to patients and children than good. Oops. Sorry, guys. The law in question, H.R. 5, the Equality Act, would prohibit discrimination based on sex, sexual orientation, and gender identity, and includes sex and sexual orientation and gender identity among the prohibited categories of discrimination or segregation. It sounds like it should be so simple, but it affects so much. This is a very dangerous legislation that literally mandates health professionals do harm to people. The act says health professionals cannot deny treatment to a person based on their gender identity. Now, at first, people may blush and say, "What's wrong with that?" The problem is a person who identifies as trans can very readily and easily go and access medical care for a common cold and ankle sprain. The issue is when they go to a doctor's office, for example, a woman goes in and says, "I identify as a man. I want you, my OBGYN, to perform a hysterectomy. Take my healthy uterus out of my healthy body." I am a woman who's not trying to identify as a man, and I have severe endometriosis, me, Kate420. And at 40 years old, I still can't get a doctor, my OBGYN of 15 years after having 6 children, to perform a hysterectomy on me. So what makes you think you, as a person who has never had any health problems, because you no longer want to be a woman, can just start ripping body parts out and force doctors to do it? That's what she's saying. Okay? All right. Next. Now, physician's oath harm. Okay, here we go. That's forcing a physician to violate his oath to first do no harm. Now, the transgender activists claim, oh no, these transgender surgeries, putting them on hormones is life saving. It's simply not. Oh, that's the excerpt of it. I don't want to go to the. Yeah, I better. Hold on. Let me see if I can get it. The problem is that the town hall version of this is the one I'm pulling up now. It doesn't ever stop loading. So it's a pain in the ass. Sorry. Let's get rid of some of this. Maybe that'll help. There we go. Let's try it now. This is the same one we were just reading, but it actually comes from townhall.com if you want to read it yourself. Okay. It was an excerpt that I was reading out of, I don't remember what I just showed, what one I was just on, but, I'm going to go back to where we were. Here we go. Out of my healthy body. All right. That's not what the science is simply not true. That is not what the science shows. Dr. Cretella cited a recent study which showed 30 years after surgery, the transgender identified population had a suicide rate 19 times greater than the general population. 19 times greater. We can't deny this, you guys. We can't look the other way and say, well, if we don't let them become who they feel inside, then they're going to kill themselves because they hate who they are. That just doesn't show in the numbers. The numbers show it's post transitioning. The transgender identified is people who have already done that, become identify as transgender, have a 19 times greater rate of suicide. 19, guys. Come on now. We already know that 50% of men, over 50% of men, over 50% of the transgender male population has tried to commit suicide. It says, so she argues, despite inclusive evidence that these surgeries actually help, HR 5 will mandate every single physician to participate. And that's the biggest problem. It's being mandated. Exactly what I said. These things can take place in certain areas of the country without having to be shoved into the Constitution. They're just not ready for it. It's not that whole section where it says, discriminate gender identity, is because the term gender identity and what people have, the alphabet community has decided to use for the definition of transgender. It's too general, too broad, too many things that you could identify as according to their community that doctors don't medically agree with. So therefore, they can't proceed and do medical treatments on you if they don't identify or agree with your ideology. You cannot force someone to. I can't go to a doctor and give her $1 million cash and say, take out my spleen right now on the table. I want you to go in, close the door, gas me up, and take out my spleen. Here's $1 million. Do it now. Okay, even with that, she can say, I don't want your money. And no, because it's not legal. The law doesn't force a doctor to do it right now. The doctors have a right to deny you for reasons that they will inform you of. But the bottom line is they have the right to deny this law, this act, this change in the amendment will deny physicians their right to deny patients treatments that they feel are either unnecessary, dangerous, or they are not currently ready for. These individuals who are suffering, we're giving them toxic hormones that set them up for heart attack, stroke, cancer, and worse, and we're not even diminishing their suicide rate, she says. We're not helping. Furthermore, laws like the Equality Act give legal reprieve for individuals to sue Catholic hospitals. I come from a town where the only hospital is a Catholic hospital. All my children were born in a Catholic hospital. My first 8 years of working in nursing was at a Catholic hospital. States such as New Jersey and California have passed laws which grant the same civil right protections to transgender individuals, which has resulted in New Jersey, one Catholic hospital being sued by a woman claiming to be a man. She sued the hospital for refusing to perform a hysterectomy. Given the availability of other hospitals willing to perform these sorts of surgeries, it's not a question of availability. That's why they put it in they're going to pick Catholic hospitals to sue them and look, and literally drive them out of business. If the law passes and becomes law of the land, you are essentially putting all Catholic healthcare services. Hey guys, you don't think that Catholic healthcare services are abundant? You might want to look that up. Believe it or not, there's a lot of the middle class population goes to immunization clinics and other Catholic hospital type programs for their children that are subsidized by the government. They are on a sliding scale thing, so that you can pay a fee based on your income. All right, here's the parental rights one. In terms of parental rights, I gotta get a drink, guys. All right, let's see. In terms of parental rights, Dr. Dr. Citrella explains that under the proposed legislation, there are none anymore. Do you understand that? In terms of parental rights, under the proposed legislation, there are none anymore. I want that to sit with you for a second. This isn't Sean Hannity telling you you're going to lose your rights. They're going to take everything. This is a doctor with many years experience in the law telling you if this law passes, you as a parent will have no rights to decide what your child needs, wants, or is to be done medically anymore. If the Equality Act passes, it literally says any action by anyone to interfere with access to transgender procedures or reproductive health is discrimination, and it's not allowed. Parents, doctors, priests, teachers, anyone who tries to interfere with a transgender, trying to get either procedures done, hormones, whatnot, or reproductive health, if you refuse to treat them, if you say I'm not that type of doctor, I've decided long ago I don't deal with those hormones, they give out, there's cancer side effects and whatnot, so I've decided long ago I don't treat with those hormones. It doesn't matter. You don't have a right to say no anymore. That's what this law, the Equality Act, this is what they should say, not Taylor Swift's little quote of it makes everyone equal. It should say the Equality Act takes all of your rights as a parent, as a human being, as a doctor, as a priest, as it takes all of your rights away from you to say no. All of your right to say no away from you. All right. One family in Ohio already had their parental rights terminated because they would not consent to their adolescent daughter getting on puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones. Yeah, well, the children in essence become the states and the public schools who receive the children in essence become the states. That's exactly it. All of our children will all become wards of the states. We will have no say over whether or not they are allowed to identify as a girl when they were born a boy, or as a boy when born a girl, or anything else they choose. Us as parents will have lost that right. The 18 years you've been able to shape and mold your child into what you feel is right for, not any longer. No longer. Not if this is passed. We have to stop this. It will actually be required to teach transgender ideology from pre-K on forward, all the way up. This is because the Equality Act would wrongly identify gender identity as though it's a race or skin color. Thank you. If H.R. 5 passes, private schools, even churches and Catholic hospitals, all private institutions will have to bow down to transgender ideology. That means a church that has a, as Dan Bongino did. Dan Bongino gave this example. A church that has a Sunday women's singles night where the people who go to the church, the women that are there that aren't married, that are single, that are maybe widowed, whatever, they have a singles night on Sunday for women, and where the young men of the church come in and they do the little 5-minute dating games. How about that? Well, obviously, I would say that would probably be a place where where a transgender person would, I don't know, probably not be welcome, because here you're in a church where you obviously know these people don't believe in your ideology. Therefore, they would not want you participating in their date night as a what they would consider as a man in disguise of a woman. But they couldn't tell you no. Everyone from the church to your parents to hospitals and doctors and psychologists will to teachers will lose the right to say no to our kids. And I think we've lost enough rights to tell our kids what to do and how and in what ways we punish them. I think the fact that they took capital punishment out of this, or corporal, excuse me, capital. No, no death sentences for our kids in school. Sorry. That was a snort from Kate. Yes, you got it. There you go. Anyhow, I think that corporal punishment being taken out of the schools was the beginning of the end for, really for our children. I think once they did that, it was like a roller coaster straight down, never coming back up, of taking our rights away slowly. And this is only the next step if we allow it. They have put this in under the name the Equality Act because it is that time and place in our country where we are so divided and we are so split up. Something like the Equality Act would be a right left sure thing where we could come together, but that's because it sounds like it's something it's not. Just like the Patriot Act. There's like so many other things that our government names, these wonderful names that are absolutely destructive. Last but not least, furthermore, it grants transgender individuals civil rights protections. There won't be any more girls' sports. It'll be men's sports versus co-ed sports. That's it. No more women's sports. There will be no more women's restrooms, women's locker rooms, or women's shelters. It will be co-ed everything. It undoes our entire way of life. You don't get any more anti-science than to claim there are no biological differences between males and females. A man on estrogen is still a man. He's just a man doping estrogen. He's going to be weaker, slower than men who don't, but he's not a woman, she added. A vote on the Equality Act is supposed to take place this week in the House. I believe this was last year, guys. It already passed in the House. It's in front of the Senate now. That's why I'm on it, and that's why this is so important to me. A little bit more and we're done. This is just the LGBT thing. All right. The LGBT Equality Act back to Capitol Hill. This was just a couple months ago. This is why I think it's so important. For some reason, giant corporations are backing this, you guys. Massive corporate support. Hundreds of companies are pushing this, and I can't figure out what it is that's in it for them. This bill is heading back to Congress next week and has 161 corporate sponsors with 3.7 trillion in revenue. Operations across all 50 states, including Apple, Amazon, Google, IBM, Facebook, and Twitter. 50% of the national LGBTQ community lives in 30 states that fail to provide clear legal protections. My ass. Sorry. So anyway, that one I just wanted to touch on really quick. I'm not gonna go. I just want you to understand that this is big this time. This is the third time it's come up, and they've really pushed the. They waited until we're at a point in our history where, like, thank God Dave Chappelle came out with that the other day. Thank God, because if more people watch that Netflix show, that Netflix special, and they are able to laugh at it and start not taking themselves so seriously anymore, and not and realizing that we're not attempting to hurt we're just having laughs. What happened to jokes and comedy and saying things that we're not supposed to say when we're having fun telling stories to each other? I just feel like that whole PC thing went way too far off the cliff, and even I, as a gay woman, started to resent my own community. How's that? And I'm not the only one. I'm not the only gay woman. As a matter of fact, lesbians and transgenders are. If you listen to Dave Chappelle's show that the other night, they are known enemies for whatever reason it is. I don't know why. I'm not. I have no reason to be. I just am saying normally transgenders don't care for lesbians for whatever reasoning they have. And he made a joke about it, and it was hilarious. So quickly, we're going to recap and I'm going to get you guys out of here. How's that? Seven reasons why the Equality Act is anything but. Let's do this real quick. Okay. Just want to get to, okay. I'm going to read the big, bold, and black. I've told you everything else. I'm just going to wrap this up. Okay. 1, it would penalize Americans who don't affirm new sexual norms or gender ideology. And guys, if you want to read this, I suggest you do. If you're really interested in what I told you about today, go to theheritage.org or just type in 7 reasons why this will give you everything I've told you in the video and more. Okay? Because sometimes I get a little bit fast and forget about things. So it would penalize Americans who don't affirm new sexual norms or gender ideology. It would compel speech. Force us to speak a certain way. It could shut down charities. We've already talked. Foster care and adoption agencies, homeless centers, drug rehabs, all that, all because things would be forced to be co-ed, as well as foster care, 300 additional Catholic social services, all that. Okay, keep going. Sorry. It would allow biological males to defeat girls in sports. Allow more. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but in the last 1 year alone, I think transgender athletes have basically broke every state record in track. I know weightlifting, deadlifting, cycling. There was I can't. High school sports. We had a situation where the number 1 and 2, nationals were both transgender. And the number 3 was a girl who had worked all her life to get where she was at and was the number 1 on the team until the two transgenders left the boys track and became transgender, went on hormones for the 13 months, and then played girls track and basically stole her spot, and her scholarship was awarded to them. All of her high school career she ran, and there's no telling me that 2 boys who went through puberty, who are over 6 foot tall, who went through puberty and then took hormone blockers, still could not absolutely wash a girl's time by at least 30 seconds. So I don't want to hear it. It could lead to more parents losing custody of their children. I just told you about why that is. If you deny your child the drugs, if you deny the ideology, if you deny the therapy, if you say, I'm not going to refer to you as a girl when you're a boy, all of those things can get your children taken away from you if this law is passed. It would enable sexual assault. So, okay, here we go. I do want to read this one. A complaint filed by the federal election official alleged that a boy who identifies as gender fluid in Oakhurst Elementary School in Georgia sexually assaulted Pasha Thomas's 5-year-old daughter in a girl's bathroom. The boy had access because of his transgender restroom policy. No, my time's running out. I gotta hurry up. That was 7, guys. All right. I love you. Thank you for sticking around this long. Think about this Equality Act, guys. What good is it gonna do? That can't be done without mandating us to accept this. No one's mandated to accept anything. This is America. You have the freedom to believe what you want to believe, and this takes that freedom away. All right. I'll see you guys soon. Have a wonderful day.